The Nebraska Cornhuskers cracked the top 25 at number 25, taking on the Gophers at Huntington Bank Stadium tonight. Our online coverage gets going at 3, then the pregame show begins at 5:30. The game itself at 7, again right here on Fox 9. I'll be tailgating and at the game. Can't wait. Maroon and gold, Ski-U-Mah, row the boat. That'll do it for us. Hope you have a great weekend. Hope to see you back here Monday. Until then, have a good one. Fox 9 All Day starts now.
Welcome to Fox 9 All Day on this Friday afternoon. Glad you could be joining us today. I'm Rob Olson in for Amy Hockert on this Friday. And we got a packed couple of hours ahead here on All Day. Here's what we got on tap. First of all, there you go. Financial help available for those hit by disasters in Minnesota. A couple different disasters out there that we're talking about, but the main one here is that the clock is ticking for disaster relief in western Minnesota from some flooding concerns from late July. We're going to tell you what you need to know about that. Election Day is coming up fast, a few weeks away now, and all week long we've been talking to, Amy's been talking to mayoral candidates for the city of Minneapolis, and today we're talking to our 5th and final Minneapolis mayoral candidate. Is part of the Candidate of the Day series, again, all week long. So that's coming up. It is a very big weekend for film buffs in the Twin Cities. The Twin Cities Film Festival is underway. It kicked off last night. The executive director is going to be telling us what is in the spotlight for the events now in the 16th year of this particular event. And another big event this weekend, there you go, centered around art, science fiction, fantasy, fandoms, you know, people that like cosplay, dressing up as their favorite sci-fi characters, happening this weekend, all for and by people of color. We're talking about Confluence, pictures in color. Also, you may have heard about this, maybe not. Interesting to research this this morning. A house made of straw. Yeah, sounds a little bit like the plot of the Three Little Pigs, but this is real. It has been built in Minneapolis, and we're talking to the woman who not only owns a house, but built it and lives there. Pretty interesting to see how this construction takes place and why they did it. Very interesting. And it is Gophers game day, a Friday night game here on Fox 9. The party's already getting started. We're going to be live on campus multiple times here throughout the next couple hours as the Gophers get ready to host Nebraska at home at Huntington Bank. Should be a good night for football. All right, another big story today nationally. We're watching the White House because President Trump is expected to be welcoming Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy any moment now. Here's a live look outside the White House as the Ukrainian president comes in for another meeting with President Trump as they discuss the future of Ukraine, specifically the future of Ukraine. And it's now a multi-year war with Russia and the aid that the U.S. may or may not give to Ukraine. President Trump has said he's not ready to sell Kiev a long-range missile system that the Ukrainians have said that they desperately need. Now, again, a lot of moving parts here between the two sides, between Ukraine and Russia. President Trump had a pretty lengthy phone call with the Russian president, Vladimir Putin, discussing this conflict. They're trying to set up another summit here in the coming weeks to discuss this in person. In recent days, the president had shown some openness to selling this long-range Tomahawk cruise missiles. Putin had warned against it. After the phone call with Putin on Thursday, the president appeared to then downplay the prospects of Ukraine getting the missiles. So again, a very fluid situation about what help we may or may not give Ukraine as it continues to battle against invasion by Russian forces now several years ago. It is unclear if we will hear from the presidents, Trump and Zelenskyy, today. There's a closed meeting scheduled for early this afternoon. Zelenskyy, though, expected to speak to the media later on today. So again, that's a live look outside the White House as we're expecting this meeting to occur shortly here, waiting for Vladimir Zelenskyy to arrive at the White House. We'll keep tabs on that for you here on this Friday afternoon. Okay, other big news out of D.C., of course, the government shutdown, the federal government shutdown, now dragging on another day, and it will continue to drag on at least a few days because there's no progress today because the Senate does not meet again until Monday. As of now, this is now officially the third longest shutdown. If it goes into next week and there's no deal, it becomes the second longest shutdown on record. Of course, the longest still over 30 days a couple of years ago. Meantime, the NPR is reporting that the White House is now planning to carry out mass layoffs in the Interior Department. Of course, we've been talking about over the last week or so about the plans for layoffs in various government departments that the Trump administration says this shutdown has been an opportunity to have reductions in force. There is a court order blocking firings during the shutdown, basically an injunction pending another court hearing, but a declaration filed with the court late Thursday. The attorneys here for government employees wrote that multiple credible sources have now said the Interior Department's actively preparing to lay off thousands of employees beginning on Monday. Now, speaking to reporters yesterday, the White House spokesperson said the White House is pretty confident that the actions are legal, calling layoffs an unfortunate consequence of the government shutdown. So again, that back and forth continues with the White House saying what they're doing is legal, but a lot of legal challenges to that, saying it cannot happen during a shutdown, so that will continue. All right, another big story that we've been covering on Fox 9, of course, all morning long is it's sentencing day for a former Minnesota Teacher of the Year, Abdul Wright. We've covered this story extensively. He's in court at 1:30 this afternoon, so in about 90 minutes or a little bit less. He's facing potentially more than a decade in prison for sexually abusing a middle school student for nearly a year. Now, the Fox 9 investigators have done stories on this. Nathan O'Neill's covering it again today. A 14-year-old student who told the Fox 9 investigators that Wright had groomed and sexually abused her while she was a student at Harvest Best Academy in Minneapolis. Now, the background here, again, a former Minnesota Teacher of the Year. He was named that in 2016, and according to the court case, began sexually abusing the student the following year. And a recording of a very incriminating phone call that was played in his trial convinced the judge that Wright had lied on the stand in his own testimony when he claimed his innocence. Now, this school is also the subject of a civil lawsuit for not doing enough to protect the student. Again, Fox 9 investigator Nathan O'Neill, who's covered this pretty extensively, in court again for this sentencing this afternoon, again scheduled for 1:30, and we will certainly have updates on what happens later on today. All right, continuing in courts for now. In federal court this morning, pretty big story here. Former National Security Advisor John Bolton, who turned himself in today after being charged by a grand jury, expected to plead not guilty, pleaded not guilty to charges, actually, that he illegally shared classified information with family members and that he stored top secret documents at his home for years after he left government. Of course, you know, these stories about classified documents have really come to the fore in the last couple of years. That investigation into President Trump while he was between his terms with documents stored down at Mar-a-Lago. Of course, there was then an instance where former President Biden had found some documents in his garage in the wake of that Mar-a-Lago investigation and turned those in. But you'll recall Bolton, who is 76, is a longtime fixture. He was the National Security Advisor for President Trump for a little more than a year during the first administration. He was then fired in 2019 And then he became a pretty staunch critic of President Trump, published a book very critical of him that President Trump had tried through legal means to block the publication of, but that did go ahead. Bolton has said that he believes he's being targeted simply because of that criticism of the president, and that this is part of his effort for retribution and to intimidate his opponents. But again, there's a lot of legal merits to this case as well, in terms of some of the evidence that they have found in terms of classified documents and storing them and sharing them potentially via a personal email account. So we'll keep tabs on that as well. Okay, back closer to home and something a little bit more festive here. Gopher game day in Minnesota. The Gophers hosting Nebraska tonight at Huntington Bank Stadium. It's just afternoon and the game is hours away, but the fun already getting underway, and why not? It's a beautiful day to be outside. Tailgating is always so much fun. There's avid tailgaters that show up to the U, and what a great day for it. Lauren Andrago live on campus. Looking a little sparse around there, but I know those tailgaters will be showing up soon if they're not setting up camp already.
Yeah, Rob, the energy just starting to pick up here on campus. In everyone's defense, bars opened just about an hour ago. But we've got Gopher fans, we've got Husker fans all over for a really fun game night here on the U of M campus. I want to introduce you to a Husker fan. Her name is Katie. She drove here with her family from Omaha last night. What made you guys decide to make the drive?
I have a lot of friends up here, and in the last 10, 15 years, we've came up for this game. They're Gopher fans. I'm Husker fans, so
fun.
Yeah.
You came here specifically trying to go to the ticket office, which is not open quite yet. You shared some pretty interesting information with me about ticket prices.
Yeah, every time I've came up here, we just come to the ticket office. It's like $20, easy, and now tickets are outrageous online, so hoping to get to the ticket office at some point.
Yeah, I think we heard it opens in a couple of hours, so you are all good. You also told me you've made it up here quite a bit to these Gopher games, and you're liking the weather up here today.
Absolutely. I've never been here without a stocking cap and a big winter coat and gloves, so it'll be nice to enjoy a beer without freezing.
Seriously, yes, and you guys deserve it, especially for that drive. I'm seeing Huskers all over the place. A lot of you very loyal, made the drive up here, and 7 hours before the game are getting ready to get the party started. Can you kind of just explain the Husker fandom to me and what makes you guys so loyal?
It's crazy. It helps that we don't have any professional sports in Nebraska, so Huskers are it for us, and we follow everywhere. We have a great fan base, and looking forward to a lot of red in the stadium tonight.
Yeah, I think we can already tell on campus that is going to happen, and lots of activities getting started very soon. What are you going to do for the rest of the weekend here, Katie, with your family?
We're going to go visit Minnehaha Falls here for a while, and then I have some friends in town. I don't know, we'll just kind of bum around.
Yeah.
We have an 11-year-old with us, so going to do some kid-friendly stuff tomorrow, bowling or something like that.
Fantastic. Well, I appreciate you hanging out here with us. I'll let you guys go find a place to sit down. Best of luck, I guess.
Yeah,
I should say that to you, or safe travels. Right. I hope you enjoy the game. Yeah. I don't really know what to say to a Husker, but either way, thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Go Big Red.
She got it in there. Thank you, Katie. So a lot going on today, Rob. Starting at 2 o'clock, the tailgates are going to open, and folks will be here ready to party. There's also a lot of university-sanctioned events happening tonight because of the Friday night game. The Gopher Garden right at Huntington Bank is going to open up at 4 o'clock. There will be live music, drinks, giveaway. That's all happening right outside 3M Arena, right on Oak Street. Then Sky U Mania at 4 o'clock. That's when you're going to be able to start hearing the band. The kickoff, folks will be able to come here to the front gates at 4:30 to welcome the Gopher football team into the stadium. And then the Gopher Spirit Rally starts at 5:40 right on the Mariucci patio. All of this leading up to the band taking the field at 6:40 before kickoff at 7. If you're not coming to the game tonight, if you're not coming to campus, if you're not going to rock out to Paul McCartney tonight at US Bank Stadium, you can watch the Gopher game at home. Fox 9 carrying the game at 7. We have all of our action starting at 3 o'clock on Fox Local. The afternoon ship is going wall-to-wall Gopher coverage, and then our pregame show starts at 6:30. It's going to be fun. Rob, you can feel the energy even with fewer people out here, fewer people in the bars, but I saw lots of Gopher students wearing their overalls to classes. So
well, that's
they're carrying the Gopher spirit with them, even if they're learning right now.
Yeah, and this is the time of day where you really will notice it's starting to pick up rapidly out there as people show up and start grilling and everything. And there's some good food to be had out there if you make it around the stadium.
Yeah, that's for sure. You can smell it. You can smell the grills firing up right now.
And I'm okay. Now you got me hungry already, and I can't join you.
Sorry.
But that's all right. Thanks, Lauren. As Lauren mentioned, have fun out there. If you can't make it to Huntington Bank Stadium tonight, you can watch the game right here on Fox 9. Kickoff just after 7 o'clock, and it should be very comfortable. Meteorologist Jared Piepenberg here. It doesn't look warm out there when you're sitting inside here, but it was really nice out today.
It was almost a record warmest low temperature this morning, if you wrap your head around that. So
record
the highest
low.
Yes, the highest
for the date.
low. Yeah, which is, I believe, 62. I looked this up yesterday, and then, of course, I'm like right out the window, but it's like lower 60s. And the coldest temperature I saw this morning when we started at 4:30 was 61. So we were like really close to like tying a record.
I was pleasantly shocked this morning when I ran out just wearing shorts and a t-shirt to throw some, to get the garbage out. I'm like expecting, you're just running out quick. So I'm like, I didn't even think about it. I go outside, I'm like, oh, this is great. Yeah,
temperature didn't really move much last night. When we started off the show, International Falls was still at 61 too. So it was like from north to south, it was just really, really warm, and it's still really mild out there. So,
and should be really nice for the Gopher game tonight.
Yeah, I would guess it's still going to be in the mid 60s. So if you walked outside right now, it's probably going to be really similar to that at kickoff.
Wow. How long are we expecting this to stick around?
It's like
this is perfect fall weather for me.
Oh yeah, this is gorgeous. Today's the warmest day of the forecast, sadly, so it isn't going to stick around all weekend long. I know MEA is going on, so a lot of folks are out and about, but the weekend is still above average. It just won't be as nice as today.
What about tomorrow at about 11:20 a.m.? That's when my tea time is.
Tomorrow it will be a little cooler in the morning. You won't have as much winds, but as you get going through the front and back nine, the breeze is going to pick up for you. So you have something.
I dealt with that last weekend.
So you can you have something to deal with. You can blame it on that part of the game. Also, I don't know if you play the leaf rule. Probably dealing that with that too.
And weirdly, the leaves haven't. I mean, they are presenting a visual clutter to you to find your ball, but I haven't had to dig through leaf piles yet. That becomes an issue.
Yeah.
They're just scattered out there. They're not piled up yet.
Yeah. When I used to golf a ton when I worked my first job out in Bismarck. This was single and didn't have anything going. I just golfed all the time, and I would go until like the golf course closed. But I know the late season, like no one's ever out there. So you have a smaller window part of the day you can play. But it was always fun to go out in there, and you lose so many balls, even though it might be in the middle of the fairway if they aren't keeping track of the leaves. There's the forecast for the weekend.
Yeah, you got a few PM drifts tomorrow, but I mean, we're not looking at rain throughout the day.
No, it isn't. So I mean, the past few days we've kind of had this like dreary, drizzly sort of situation. That's not going to be the case for tomorrow. It'll start in western Minnesota. It looks like just kind of maybe a broken line of light showers or sprinkles, and that'll push eastward toward the metro. Kind of look like maybe toward the evening we could have a couple of those, and it may end up falling apart too. So just be some minor interruptions. But I still think the radar is going to show some of those showers for tomorrow. So we'll start off sunny. So by the time you have your tea time, probably start to see clouds increase in the west, and then it'll cloud up throughout the afternoon. And I think that'll hold off those temperatures as well. And then that breeze is going to be switching for you as you're playing too, going from a west wind to a northwest wind, and it'll kind of pick up a little bit.
But then looks beautiful Sunday, a little cooler, but I mean sunny.
Yeah, and that northwest breeze. I mean, there's going to be a cold front swinging on through, but I mean, it's really not doing much for temperatures. Our average high today is 58. So we're just well above average today, and we're still above average the next two. It's just not going to be as warm as what we got going on.
This is the fall weather that I really look forward to. Not the All right, we gotta wrap up here. I'm getting the heave ho from the control room.
I heard it too.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
good luck tomorrow.
But quickly.
Yes.
wetter and colder winter is what NOAA says.
Yeah, just the way that the ocean temperatures are off in the west, it kind of, that's what it hints at our winter weather. It was maybe drier down southern part of the U.S., and up here just may end up leading to colder and maybe a little wetter. So
and more snow.
Wait and see.
Yeah, we'll see. We could use one of those because it's been a mild couple of years. All right, we got to move on here on All Day here on Fox 9 on this Friday. Thank you, Jared.
Got it.
Have a good weekend.
You too.
Coming up, we're going to be talking about disaster loans available to help Minnesotans, but not for much longer. An important deadline now that is just hours away if you're looking for low-interest federal loans. You're watching Fox 9 All Day. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to Fox 9 All Day on this Friday afternoon. I got to tell you about this, an important deadline now, just hours away, that could affect, hundreds, if not more, Minnesotans out in western Minnesota, business owners and residents in some western Minnesota counties that were hit by severe flooding in late July. Small Business Administration disaster loans available primarily in Morris County. Again, that's the primary damage areas, but a number of counties adjacent to it, just right around it. The deadline for that is 4 p.m. today, so that's why it's important to get this word out. So joining us now is Tori Marion of the U.S. Small Business Administration. Thank you for joining us today. Let's talk about these loans first. This was from late July out in western Minnesota, and these allow businesses and nonprofits a certain amount of a small interest loan that they can get, and then homeowners for their primary residence even larger if they need to repair or replace. What are they eligible for?
They're eligible for our low interest loans, and like you said, these disasters happened July 27th and 28th. We have a disaster loan outreach center that is open, and it will close at 4 p.m. today. But after that, you have until December the 1st to apply online at sba.gov/disaster.
Okay, so to go in person then, which is sometimes more informative, then it's important that people get in there in the next few hours to get that in. But that, as you mentioned, that window remains open online for a while. So that's good news, I guess, if people haven't got all their information organized. Tell us what primarily the folks affected here, what kind of loans what they're eligible for, I guess.
They're eligible for our low interest loans. They are 30-year fixed loans. They are 12-month interest free for homeowners and renters as low as 2.8%, and businesses and nonprofits as low as 4%.
Okay. And, you know, some context here for, you know, across the country when we see natural disasters or severe weather events, how crucial has this been to help people with their recovery?
This has been extremely helpful for residents to be able to go into our DLOC Center and apply for these loans that are available to them.
Okay. Again, this is for western Minnesota affected by flooding. I know that there's another disaster declaration and small business administration loans available up in northern Minnesota for strong storms and winds from June. That has been extended. That's in Beltrami County and extended for another week. How often do you see, you know, extensions? Because, you know, maybe you're just not, you know, there's more people affected than you've seen loans for. Is that common to try to extend that to continue to help?
Yes, if we have the need, they will likely extend the deadline, or foot traffic coming into those disaster loan outreach centers usually determine if we're in the area for an extended amount of time.
Okay, I know that one in Beltrami County's in Bemidji, I believe, and that was extended to be open until through Saturday afternoon, a week from tomorrow. But again, the one that we're primarily talking about here is in Morris County, and I don't know if you have any details about how people can find this office, where they go, or what to look for.
It's the Morris City Hall.
Okay, well, that's easy enough. If you live in that area, hopefully you know where the city hall is, and I would assume signage then to help direct people to that. But again, pretty crucial here to get this in before the deadline, because people could be missing out on some pretty significant help here, right?
They could. If you have had impact from these storms, we encourage you to apply. You don't have to take the loans if you don't want them. You have a certain amount of time to accept or decline the loans, but please apply to see what you're available for.
Okay, thanks so much. And tell us one more time, if they miss that 4 p.m. deadline today to do it in person in Morris County, again, where they can do this online and what time period they have.
SBA.gov/disaster, and you have until December the 1st to get those applications in.
Okay, so about 6 more weeks to go. Thank you so much for joining us to shed light on this, because people are affected by this, and sometimes this sort of help can kind of slip through the cracks as they're dealing with everything they're dealing with. All right, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. Again, that is in Morris County, a 4 p.m. deadline today to apply in person for a small business administration loan. And then again, up in northern Minnesota, that deadline for those loans there extended until Saturday, October 25th at 2 p.m. And the recommendations there to arrive an hour before closing to allow time to process your application. All right, time to move on to some, we're going to some regional headlines, which is where we bring in Amber. Hi, Amber.
Actually, Rob,
no?
I'm going to pull a fast one on you here.
Oh, do it.
Our next guest is already in the Zoom room, so I'm going to have us hit a break here first and bring them in, just so we don't keep everybody waiting too long.
Oh, yeah, we don't want to do that.
By the way, Rob, welcome to the show.
Thank
I don't
you.
know if we've done this together yet. I can't remember.
No.
I think every time that you've filled in, I've been out.
There was one time when I filled in and you were here, and it was during the visitation at the Capitol.
Oh, that's right. So it was
Hortmans.
not our usual.
So it wasn't a normal show. We were
That's
just
right.
doing a live stream of that visitation, and so that was you and I sitting here all afternoon. But yeah, we primarily just kept the camera on. So
yeah,
we haven't done this.
Well, a little bit lighter today.
Yeah, a little bit, much lighter.
Okay, as we go to break, I've got some great video from Randy, actually, our anchor. He recently took a trip out to Colorado and shared these videos with us. So we're going to have this little serenity moment as we hit break. And when we come back, we're talking Twin Cities Film Fest.
Welcome back to Fox 9 All Day on this Friday afternoon. I'm Rob Olson in for Amy Hockert this afternoon. Thanks for being with us here today. A pretty big deal going on in the Twin Cities this weekend. It is a celebration of movies. I love movies, and this is very exciting. It's very extensive too. Looking at the calendar here, there's a lot on the docket here in a number of different locations. It is the Twin Cities Film Fest. It kicked off last night. It runs through next week, and between now and then, more than 150 films, red carpet events, kind of the whole ball of wax here when you're talking about a film festival. So joining us now is Jaden Satia, the executive director of the Twin Cities Film Fest. Thank you for being with us this afternoon and in the midst of probably your busiest time here, as you got a lot going on. Not one but two locations, the West End in St. Louis Park and then at 50th in France in Edina. Tell us about the history of this event and the scope of it here.
Yeah, this is our 16th year. I'm the founder and executive director, and back in the day, we had like four days and about 30 films, and this year we're 10 days and about 152 films, like you mentioned, in two different locations. Our headquarters here at the Shops at West End at Marcus West End Cinemas in St. Louis Park, and then our new partnership with the Edina Man Theaters in Edina on 50th and Front. We have two screens going in both of the locations. all 10 days with films from across the country. 30% of the films have Minnesota connections. Celebrities will be stopping by. We have parties every single night. A lot of accessible content for our viewers, our audiences as well. We're actually doing something in St. Paul as well with Film North, with a couple of educational panels at Film North. It's a lot, but we live for this.
Well, then the question is, why did you start this, and why keep doing it, and how is it that you managed to grow it to the scope that it is now?
I was in corporate America and got laid off in 2008, and my wife essentially said to me to go find my smile, and my smile's always been films, and growing up in India and going to Bollywood movies. And to me, when everybody's sitting in the dark theater watching the same thing, that's community to me, and that's the reason I started the Twin Cities Film Fest back in the day. And we've grown it methodically, and as a nonprofit organization, funding is up and down. So that said, the community has spoken, and that's the reason we have grown so much. Is we take care of our community members, we take care of our artists, and they ask for more and more and more, and we do our best to provide them those opportunities to connect with each other. And at the end of the day, it's a celebration of storytelling through film. And it's for me, it's a labor of love for sure, but my entire staff, this is their passion. So we all get together for about 6 months leading into yesterday, to the kickoff, and put all these amazing stories with all of our partnerships. Our presenting sponsor this year, Stearns Bank, out of St. Cloud, second years. All of that to say, we're doing it for the community, and at the end of the day, we need more love and we need more connections right now, and that's what we're hoping to serve.
What's interesting here is that just reading, nearly half of the films you're featuring were either worked on or about women, and 40% are highlighting BIPOC voices. So clearly you've got a goal here to feature a lot of diverse groups of films and cast and production crew.
Yeah, and that's been the goal since day one, is the more voices we hear, the more diverse voices we hear, the better it makes us at the end of the day. So you're right, 50% of our films are part of our Her series, which is by, for, and about women. And that has just been it's been amazing to see the amount of love that we've gotten for women filmmakers and supporters of women filmmakers. And so we're continuously getting more and more submissions. We had over 600 submissions this year that we selected the 152 films and from across the country. And at the end of the day, for me, from a diverse voice perspective, I'm an Indian American. I was born in the country of India. I think storytelling is synonymous with connection. So the more stories we hear from different perspectives, the better it makes us as community, the better it makes us as human beings. And these stories are amazing, right? We have documentaries, we have narratives, we have shorts, we have features. It runs the gamut. If you want thriller films, we got romantic comedies.
Yeah.
We opened with an Oscar contender last night with Hamnet. We have a handful more coming through over the next 9 days.
Yeah, and that's what you think, people hear Film Fest. They think, it's going to be this artsy, all indie stuff that maybe I'm interested in. Maybe this isn't for me. But as you mentioned, it's a diverse type of film as well. As you mentioned, Oscar contenders, and you got one tonight that has got a lot of buzz too, featuring Sydney Sweeney playing in a biographical role of a female boxer.
Yeah, Sydney Sweeney's like you've never seen her before. She, I believe, put on 40 pounds of mass to play Christy Martin, the most decorated female boxer from the 90s. It's a biopic, like you mentioned, and it's a drama for sure. And Sydney Sweeney does such a wonderful job in portraying Christy Martin. Sydney Sweeney's potentially up for talks for Best Actress as well for her role in this particular film. And what a wonderful story that she's able to bring to screen and to spotlight Christy Martin. That screening is tonight. We also have some fun films. We have Rental Family with Brendan Fraser next week. We have the new Bradley Cooper film, Is This Thing On, next week. Begonia is getting really great reviews with Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons. We actually have a Minnesota Connection film as well. We have Steve Zahn, who's a Minnesota native. His daughter is making her acting debut with her father in the film called She Dances. So Audrey Zahn here in attendance.
Yeah,
we have
Steve Zahn is great. I mean, Twin Cities native here, and I most recently saw him in the streaming show Silo, and he was fantastic in that.
So good.
In addition to films, there's other events here, including red carpets. So talk about some of the other events, but let's first start with red carpets. Can we expect any good celeb sightings?
Absolutely. Last year we had Daisy Ridley from Star Wars. We had Josh Duhamel. We had Beau Bridges stop by last year. This year we have R.J. Mitty. If you've ever seen the show Breaking Bad, he was Walter Jr. in it. He's coming with a film called West Hampton. Audrey Zahn, like I mentioned as well. We also have Vincent Kartheiser. He's a Minnesota native.
From Mad Men.
From Mad Men, absolutely. So he's got 2 films in our festival this year on the last day of the festival, Go On, as well as Unholy Communion. Jacob Tremblay is stopping by. Jacob was well regarded in his role for Room with Brie Larson a few years ago. And he's in a film now with Nick Offerman, so Jacob will be in attendance. Tino Fontana is coming for our closing night film. He's been in a lot of TV shows. He actually went to the University of Minnesota, and I didn't know about this when I invited him to the festival, which is amazing as well. So there's Minnesota threads throughout. Parties every single night, like I mentioned, at our festival lounge. We have a wonderful partnership with Series Fest. We're actually getting into episodics now. So we're going to have 3 Minnesota filmmakers pitch their brand new TV shows that they're just excited about to get on TV. They're going to pitch that to industry professionals from LA, showrunners, in front of a live audience, and get live feedback.
Get like Shark Tank for the film industry, for filmmakers.
Exactly. Shark Tank. You know, at the end of the day, it's innovation and giving our creators an opportunity to dream bigger.
Yeah. In terms of all the movies on the docket here, and there's, as you mentioned, a lot. Do you got any picks for, like, what's one that's going to be a big deal, and maybe what's one that's maybe flying under the radar that people should see?
I think the flying under the radar is the film called Floaters. Floaters is a fun camp comedy. It's basically, if you've ever been to a summer camp and there's kids who want to do all the activities and there's kids who don't want to do anything. So those are the kids that don't want to do anything, they're called the floaters. And essentially this is a Jewish summer camp comedy. It has great cast with Jonathan Silverman, Steve Guttenberg, and Seth Green. That's our centerpiece film on Tuesday night, and the director Rachel Israel is going to be in attendance. That to me is a sleeper. I think everybody should come and just lighten up and have a great time at that particular film.
All right, well, we got to wrap up here, but if people want to find out more or they want to attend films or red carpets or parties, where do they need to go to find out?
TwinCitiesFilmFest.org. You can search through our database with categories. So if you just want a Her Series films, you can just look at those Her Series films in the day. At the end of the day, pick one film. It's just like going to the movies, right? Except you're going to have filmmakers here. 70% of all of our films have a post-film discussion with the filmmakers. Our volunteers are smiling, giving you guys ballots, so you can actually have an audience ballot in your hand that you can kind of vote on your favorite film as well. So TwinCitiesFilmFest.org is the best way to experience the festival.
That's fun. I mean, as somebody who obsessively listens to directors' commentaries when they're on films, to hear that kind of roundtable discussion afterwards would be fascinating. Hey, thanks so much for your time today. Good luck with this. The end date on this is what?
Saturday, October 25th.
So a week from tomorrow. Okay.
Right.
You got a busy time ahead of you. Thanks so much for joining us. Good luck with everything.
Thank you, sir.
All right. It is 12:41 now here on this Friday, and as we've been talking about, and as we'll continue to talk about, and you're going to see a lot more of this as we go on through the day, it's Golden Gophers. It's here. We got a home game on a Friday night in beautiful October weather, hosting Nebraska, and those Nebraska fans, as you saw, are very passionate, just kind of like Iowa fans are, right? There's no pro sports. Those teams become everything, and so we're going to see a lot of enthusiasm from the opponents tonight. Lauren Andrago live on campus as the fun gets going. What's that behind you?
Isn't this amazing, Rob? This is a fan bus that a family drove up here. They are in the line to tailgate. Tailgate doesn't open until 2 o'clock, but there have been folks lined up here on Oak Street since this morning. The line spills out onto the street, and if you can hear that in the background, the marching band is on its way right now. The energy is building. It's also getting warmer out. I want to introduce you to the family at the front of the line. They came all the way from my home place, the 507, from Owatonna. And our first in line, Sean,
yeah.
What time did you guys get here today?
10:20. 10:20.
Did you have any idea you would be first in line?
I kind of hoped last night. I was kind of thinking this was going to be kind of a big deal if we can get here first in line. But the guy right behind us is actually normally the first in line, so he wasn't too upset though.
So you guys stole the spot. Oh my goodness. Okay, so game doesn't start till 7, but you guys are getting the party started at 2 o'clock. How do you do a successful tailgate for 5 hours?
It's a marathon, really. It's not a sprint, right? You got to take the whole day. We'll get set up. We'll have the grill going all afternoon and kind of hang out. TV's on. Maybe watch Fox 9.
Yeah.
We never know. So.
Yeah, hey, we're covering Gophers all day. And here's that marching band. Oh, wait, is that our marching band? Oh, okay, good. I saw them in all sorts of different outfits. Yeah, there they are. There's those M's on the drums. What's inside the trailer?
All sorts of stuff. I got grills, TVs, stereo, coolers, everything.
Do you guys come to a lot of Gopher games, or what's the sitch? You make one big tailgate a season, or what?
Oh, every week we're up here.
Every single
week, yeah. We've missed probably very few games over the last 20 years.
Really?
Yeah. Yep.
So a lot of folks here for Gopher Huskers. Can you tell me about this matchup specifically and the energy? It seems pretty intense.
A ton of energy. It's actually a big game. Nebraska's legit, and hopefully we can come out with the victory.
Oh my goodness.
We've never lost a tailgate, so we're undefeated in the tailgate lot. So that's our deal.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait.
Never lost one.
Wait, expand on that. How many tailgates have you guys been to?
A lot.
A lot?
Yeah. 20-some years of tailgating, yeah, for the Gopher games.
And every tailgate you've been to, the Gophers have won?
No.
Oh.
We win.
Oh, you guys win. I was going to say, those are some odds. We got to get you guys some season tickets for that. Tell me about the group you're here with today.
Friends of ours from Owatonna, James and Jess. We got my daughter and her boyfriend.
Nice. Okay.
My wife, my son, and friends from Owatonna also, Brian and Jen.
Lovely.
Yeah, it's kind of our fun deal. Owatonna North, we like to call it, when lot 37. So,
oh my goodness. Well, best of luck to you guys tonight. I'm sure you're going to win if you're undefeated.
Yeah.
Have some fun and drive safe. Back to the 507.
Yes, thanks. Have a good day.
Can you believe them, Rob? Those are the people that you want at the front of the line leading the tailgate, which, by the way, it's getting pretty intense. There are chairs blocking parking spots for people who want their prime real estate here in the tailgating lot, which opens at 2 o'clock. But the energy is picking up here at the U of M campus, and if you want to party for 5 hours, you'll find the party.
Yeah, I'm always amazed, whenever you go to a tailgate, when you see people that do that long, and then, like, how are you still standing with energy when the game hits? Because that's why you're there, but they do it.
Yes, they do.
Yeah,
they do. And I love seeing the full families here. And I should say, there are also people in Huskers clothes here in line to tailgate. So while it is an intense rivalry, I think there's some friendly competition here, and we're all here to have a good time at the end of the day. But yeah, tailgate opens at 2. All sorts of activities open to the public starting around 4 o'clock, right around Huntington Bank Stadium. It's going to start getting busy here. So I guess the earlier the better if you want to get the party started this Friday.
Let's get that party started. Yeah. All right, Lauren, thank you.
Absolutely.
Enjoy. Okay, and of course, if you can't make it out to Huntington Bank Stadium tonight, you can watch the game right here on Fox 9. Kickoff is just after 7 o'clock. And by the way, looking at the line on this game, currently has Nebraska by 8.5 points. So, that's what the odds makers say. So, We don't believe them, do we? All right.
Hey, Rob.
Yes.
I actually want to take us down to the White House right now because President Trump and President Zelenskyy are currently addressing the press in the White House.
They are, it's very hard for them to get oil. I understand it. Hungary's in a very interesting position because they can't have ports. They're surrounded by land. So we'll see what happens there. But India will not be buying oil from Russia. And they've already de-escalated, and they've more or less stopped. They're pulling back. They bought about 38% of the oil, and they won't be doing it anymore.
Mr. President Trump has been helping you in achieving peace in Ukraine.
Who has?
First Lady Melania Trump has been helping in returning abducted Ukrainian children from Russian captivity. President Zelenskyy, do you appreciate those efforts? How do you assess them? And did you ask her to step in and to help you?
No, she wanted to do it. She's just felt very strongly about the children, and she's done a really good job, I think, in bringing it to the fore. We have a lot of children involved. Now, it's some people say it's 20,000, and some people say it's 300. There's a big difference between that, so nobody really knows. But she felt very strongly about the children. She thinks about the children all the time.
President Trump, if you okay tomahawks to Ukraine, what's going to happen if the United States is in a conflict and we need the tomahawks? Do we have enough?
That's the problem. We need tomahawks, and we need a lot of other things that we've been sending over the last 4 years to Ukraine. We've been, we gave them a lot. Now we have a different situation. We send it to the European Union. They pay for it and all that, and they have plenty of money. But it's beyond the money. We need tomahawks, and we need a lot of other weapons that we're sending to Ukraine. One of the reasons we want to get this war over is exactly that. It's not easy for us to give. You're talking about massive numbers of very powerful weapons. So that's one of the things we'll be talking about. Hopefully they won't need it. Hopefully we'll be able to get the war over with without thinking about tomahawks. I think we're fairly close to that. Yeah, go ahead.
President,
yeah, please.
Just to understand. So for today, of course, we want to finish this war, but the war is another technological war. You don't use just tomahawks. If you want to target a military goal, you need thousands of drones. It goes together with such missiles. Ukraine has such thousands of our production drones, but we don't have tomahawks. That's why we need tomahawks. But the United States is a very strong production, and the United States has tomahawks and other missiles, very strong missiles, but they can have our thousands of drones. That's why where we can work together, where we can strengthen American production.
And so just so that I understand, so you're suggesting kind of a trade. If President Trump okays Tomahawk missiles to help you launch...
Yes, it's about
Russia,
military goals. It's only about military goals.
Right, but then you would authorize some kind of an exchange where...
Yes, of course.
The US
yes, we have proposition. Yeah, we have big proposition with our drones.
President Trump, I don't mean to be brokering an arms deal here, but is that something that you would be interested in, Ukrainian drones?
We are, yeah, we would. We have a lot of drones right now. We build our own drones, but we also buy drones from others, and they make a very good drone. I mean, drone warfare has really come to the fore over the last couple of years because of this war. I will say, there's nothing like the jets. We knocked out a lot of drones in Israel. We were knocking them out for Israel, and we were doing it with extremely fast and powerful jets, following the drones and knocking the hell out of them. So, we know a lot about the drones, and we know a lot about the great jets, the great ones. The ones, and the B-52s, which were totally they were stealth. They were undetectable. So we have a lot of different weapons. And, I have an obligation also, though, to make sure that we're completely stocked up as a country, because you never know what's going to happen. In war and peace, right? You never know what's going to happen. So we're going to be talking about tomahawks, and would much rather have them not need tomahawks. Would much rather have the war be over, to be honest, because, we're in it to get the war over. We're selling a lot of different types of weapon, as you know, to the European Union. We're not in it for that. We're in it to get it over. We're losing thousands of people a week, thousands of people. Russian, Ukrainian, and mostly soldiers. I mean, mostly soldiers. But we're in it to see that end. And if we can end quickly, and I think we can. I mean, I had a very good talk yesterday. We're going to be talking about it. But I had a very productive talk yesterday with President Putin. We'll see what happens. But the war in the Middle East was far more complicated. We got that one done. And I think we have a good chance. I think President Zelenskyy wants it done, and I think President Putin wants it done. Now all they have to do is get along a little bit.
Can you give us an update on the trade negotiations with China, or perhaps Secretary of Defense?
Yeah, I will, and I'm going to let Scott do that. But I think we're doing very well. I think we're getting along with China. China would like to have something. As of this moment, we'll be meeting in a couple of weeks. We'll be meeting in South Korea.
You think
myself.
Will go forward?
I think so. It looks like it's going forward. I think so. They want to meet. We like to meet. I have a very good relationship with President Xi, and we're going to see what happens. But, you know, for years we were taken advantage of by China very badly. We were losing hundreds of billions of dollars a year to China. We really built their military, if you think about it. The kind of money that presidents allowed to be lost to China was just insane. And then when I came into office, as you know, I put very severe tariffs. So we took in hundreds of billions of dollars in my first term from China. Biden let that go because it was so much. He let it continue, but he gave all sorts of exceptions. And by the time you looked at it, Scott, I would say it wasn't the same thing. He would give an exception for anything. If you got up and went out to dinner, he'd give you an exception. So it wasn't the same thing. But I put on very serious tariffs. So we took in hundreds of billions of dollars. And then I left office. The election was rigged. I left office, and that was the story. Now I come back, and we are in a very strong position because of tariffs. We're in a very powerful position because of the fact that we have tariffs. If we didn't have tariffs, we would be in a very weak position. We would be in a weakened state. But with tariffs, we've made hundreds of billions of dollars, not only from China, but from others. And China wants to talk, and we like talking to China. So we have a very good relationship, and we're going to be meeting in South Korea a couple of weeks. And I just got back from a long trip. I'm going on another long trip. And Scott, do you want to say a few words on that, please?
Yes, sir. So the entire relationship stems from the great respect that the two leaders have for each other. China did a substantial, unprovoked escalation last week. We were unable to get in touch with them. Since then, it's been IMF World Bank Week. They have had working level people here who there have been meetings. The Vice Premier, who is my counterpart, and I will be speaking this evening at around 8:30, 9 o'clock. And then he and I and a delegation will meet in Malaysia probably a week from tomorrow to prepare for the two presidents to meet. So I think that things have de-escalated. We hope that China will show the respect that we have shown them. And I am confident that President Trump, because of his relationship with President Xi, will be able to get things back on a good course. Is the hope for that meeting with you and President Xi some kind of trade deal then, or
could be?
More
Look, I think we're in a very strong position. We're getting, as you know, as of November 1st, I could move it up if I wanted, a 100% tariff over and above what we get now. So that would make it about 157%. And China doesn't want that, and they want to talk, and we're talking. And I think we'll make a deal that will be good for both. I think we will do something. But you have to understand, we never got anything from China. It was a one-way street. For many years, for decades, it was a one-way street. And they became rich because of the United States. And frankly, presidents that, let's be nice, they didn't know. They just didn't know. They didn't understand what was happening to them. But I understood it. I understood it long before I ran for politics. I used to watch in amazement at how stupid our country was, how stupid they were. And we're not stupid anymore. and that includes with the European Union, that includes with Japan and South Korea. All we want to do is be treated fairly. But the fairly is hundreds of billions and even trillions of dollars coming into the United States. And it's our national security is secure because of tariffs. If we didn't have tariffs, we would have no national security. So it's very important.
Will you seek China's help?
All right, that is President Trump speaking from the White House as he's meeting today with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. The discussion has now changed to other parts of the world and other issues globally, notably with China. But initially they were talking about part of the deal here is that Volodymyr Zelenskyy is looking to get some long-range, some Tomahawk missiles from the U.S., and they're talking about maybe providing some drones that they've used in the warfare there to the U.S. The president mentioning the U.S. makes a lot of drones, but the Ukrainian made drones are very good as well. So that's kind of in the discussion here is Volodymyr Zelenskyy looks to shore up some more support via some missiles as they continue this fight with Russia. The president also mentioning his discussion with Russian President Vladimir Putin yesterday, and as they continue to try to set up a summit together to discuss ending the war in Ukraine. All right, well, we got to move on here to something local, close to home, very interesting, in a really dynamic way of home building here that is keeping energy in mind, too. You probably remember the story of the three little pigs making a house of straw. In Uptown in Minneapolis, there is a straw house that is yet to be blown over by a big bad wolf, and the owner and builder of that home, Katie Jones, who is also a state representative, joining us now. Hi, Katie. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm great. Thanks so much for having me.
This I was reading all about in your blog and about the ideals behind this, and then the actual physical construction of it. You know, you think a straw house, it's not like you see it. It's not like a sod hut or something. You know, that straw bales are used within the walls as a form of basically insulation. Why is straw, in your view, in building this, why was that the obvious choice to try to build a home, or not try, you did build a home using bales of straw?
Yes, so thank you for the question. This here behind me is the Uptown Straw House. Most my husband and I were really interested in sustainability, and I care about building a more just, resilient, and thriving Minnesota. And so part of that is thinking differently. And so when we think about how our construction works today, it's a lot of fossil fuel based materials, foams, and plastics, and a lot of things that people don't really know are in their homes. And I think if people knew that these are the types of materials going into their homes, they may start to question it. And so we started questioning it. We ultimately learned that there is an international construction code standard for straw bale construction, and so we followed the journey from there.
Katie, show us a little bit more. I mean, this is a home that you built, and I was looking at it. This is something where you took down a detached garage and built this home in its place?
Yes, exactly. So we used something just exactly like this straw bale down here.
Yeah.
And they are in the walls, and you can see the thickness of the walls here. So our walls are about 2 feet thick. That makes sure that we have really well insulated walls.
Yeah, and so it's straw bales that are stacked. I mean, there is a wood structure, a framing of a house with the straw bales, and then is it 3 layers of plaster that you put over it?
Correct. So a straw bale wall is really a system. You stack the bales as if you're laying bricks, and then on top of that, you put on this 2x2 inch wire mesh, and that kind of creates some stability as well as an interface or a face for the plaster to adhere to. And so you can see some of the pictures of our community build for the straw bale wall itself. We had a general contractor build that framed up structure. You can also see some of the X bracing that is in there. So actually this is, if there is a tornado, if there are strong winds, this is the place you want to go. The big bad wolf will not blow it down. And here you can see the final.
Yeah, and then I understand too that you had to place a number of moisture sensors within the walls themselves to keep make sure the moisture level of the straw, is it below 20%? Is that right?
Correct. So this is just, that was a requirement of the city of Minneapolis because 20 years ago, there was not a standard for straw bale construction. There was a home that failed. And so there was hesitancy from the building official. And so to overcome that, we wanted to cross our T's, dot our I's. And so while most people do not need to put moisture sensors in the walls, we are collecting data so that the people after us can have that sense of well-being that this works. The mitigation measures that we did for moisture are indeed working, and those are best practice.
Yeah, and just to make sure there's no mold growing in there. And then, you talk about it being can sustain winds like a house that doesn't have straw. What about fire? Is there concern there? Is there anything different in terms of how it would respond to a fire?
Yeah, that's a great question. There are actually 4 documented cases from the campfires in California in 2017 of straw bale homes that withstood those fires. Because if you think about it, a straw bale wall has plaster on either side. Plaster is just lime, sand, and water. Those are not materials that readily catch fire. Also, the bale itself is reticent. It does not readily change temperature. And so because of both of those things, straw bale structures are actually, they have a fire rating that is twice as good as code requires.
Yeah, and then you think about it too, when it burns, unlike, as you mentioned, all the plastic-based items that are in typical construction with the insulation and the wrapping, et cetera, this would not emit some of the same toxins into the air.
Exactly.
Wow. So this is the only, was there one other structure in St. Paul built from straw?
So there is a garage in Minneapolis in kind of the southeast Como area that is straw bale.
Okay. So how much, I assume you get a lot of questions like we're having today. I mean, how much interest do you think there is from other people and how much reality is there that we may see more structures built like this in the coming years?
Yeah, I love that question. And, I'm under no illusion that straw bale construction is going to suddenly become the norm. Our intent here was really to start the conversation and to start people, asking the questions of what materials are we putting in our homes? Are those the materials that we think are healthiest for our families? And should we start, thinking differently about what we're putting in our walls, putting on our walls? And this is, straw bale is just one opportunity to do use more natural materials. Hempcrete is another, and there's some excellent leadership coming from the Lower Sioux Indian community with Danny Desjardins in building, using hemp as a raw material, also mixing in lime. So these things that we know are healthier for our families. And, at the end of the day, I know that I am only about a mile from downtown. My house may not stand for the next couple of hundred years. And so I want my house to be as compostable and recyclable as possible. And so that's how we ended up here.
Okay. I don't know if you want to talk about how much it costs to build and how that compares to a standard construction.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't actually know the comparison because we didn't attempt to build a standard construction, so I don't have that delta. I can say what probably drove the biggest cost is that we're doing an infill lot. I don't have an alley. This structure, as you said, is taking the place of a former garage. So that the biggest hurdles probably were more about the movement on the property and where to put materials during the construction process, rather than the cost of the materials itself.
All right. Well, I know we can see a lot of pictures of the process of the build on your, I can't remember which website of yours I was looking at, but it was very fascinating. Lastly, do you know how many bales that you used?
Yeah, it's about 600 bales. We got them from Frederick, Wisconsin. There's an app called Hey Map, and that's how I was able to source bales locally. That's the other thing we want to stress here is there's an economic development component. We don't have oil here in Minnesota, so we're not going to be producing any of those plastics, but we do produce a lot of natural materials that can go into our buildings.
All right. Thanks for joining us. It's really cool to see that house. And when did you finish it?
December of 23.
Okay, and it looks great. Looks great. Hey, thanks so much for joining us on this lovely Friday afternoon. Appreciate it. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, thanks. Have a good one.
You bet. All right, shortly after 1 o'clock here on this Friday afternoon, and Amber, I believe we're going to return to the White House where President Trump is meeting with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelenskyy as they discuss support for Ukraine, but also the goal of ending the war in Ukraine with Russia. Let's listen in.
That's, the threat of that is good, but the threat of that is always there. Tomahawks are very dangerous weapons. They're incredible weapons. If you like warfare, it's one of the most accurate. You know, we hit 30 Tomahawks in Iran after the B-2s did their damage. We sort of gave it a little capper with 30 Tomahawks from a submarine, quite far away actually, but they're an amazing weapon. They're a very powerful weapon, but they're a very dangerous weapon, and it could mean big, escalation. It could mean a lot of bad things can happen. Tomahawks are a big deal. But one thing I have to say, we want Tomahawks also. We don't want to be giving away things that we need to protect our country. We have a very strong country right now. We have a strong military. We have the greatest military in the world. We have the greatest weapons in the world. I want to get this war over. Okay?
Putin-Trump tunnel to connect Russia and Alaska. Are you interested?
I just heard about it. A tunnel from Russia to Alaska. I just heard about that one. That's an interesting one. We'll have to think about that. I hadn't heard that. We just did a nice road in Alaska that's going to get us to a lot of minerals, and we have a piece of it, a good piece of the ownership because of the fact we made it possible. But this came up yesterday, a tunnel from Russia to Alaska. That's an interesting. What do you think of that, Mr. President? Do you have any ideas? How do you like that idea?
I'm not happy with this.
I don't think you're going to like it. I don't think he liked it. I don't think he liked it.
President Trump, do you think that Vladimir Putin, do you think that Putin, your gut instinct?
Well, we had a senator that wanted, remember, from Hawaii, she wanted a tunnel from the mainland to Hawaii. And she said, well, we can't do that, so we're going to build a railroad to Hawaii. Do you remember? She's a current sitting senator, a Democrat. She wants a railroad to go to Hawaii, right? You know who that is, right? She's another beauty.
President Trump, your gut instinct.
Yeah, please.
On your meeting with Putin, aren't you concerned that maybe the Russian president is trying to buy himself more time?
Yeah, I am, but, you know, I've been played all my life by the best of them, and I came out really well. So it's possible, yeah, a little time.
Is your gut instinct?
It's all right. But I think that I'm pretty good at this stuff. I think that he wants to make a deal. I made 8 of them. I'm going to make a 9th. I think he wants to make a deal.
Do you still consider Russia to be a paper tiger? Do you think, judging by the state of its economy?
Well, I think that he should have won the war in a week. Yeah, I do think. And if we didn't give the anti-tank missiles, as you know, the javelins they call them, they got stuck in the mud. They would have been in Kiev very quickly. They were heading to Kiev. So, you know, in war, you have a lot of luck, too. You know, weather has won war, and the cold and the heat and all things take place in war. But that was a very interesting moment when the tanks started rolling and some brilliant general said, let's go through the mud instead of going down the highway, right? So they got a little bit lucky. But you know where they really got lucky? I gave javelins. That wasn't given by Barack Hussein Obama. He gave them sheets. You know, there's a statement. Obama gave them sheets, and I gave them the javelins. And the javelins are a devastating weapon. And that wasn't given by Obama. That was given by, because at the time it was Obama. That was given by me. So it was like one of those things. And you had hundreds of them. They're a devastating weapon. We have a lot of devastating weapons. I'd rather not use them. But that was a big moment. You know, when the tanks got stuck, they got stuck. And call it luck or call it talent. I'm not sure what you'd call it, but it was a big moment in time.
Do you think Democrats will give you credit? Do you think Democrats will give you credit when you finally end this war, like they did with the war in the Middle East? And
I think right now the Democrats are really damaged, mentally damaged. They want to take $1.5 trillion with a T, $1 trillion, and give it to people that invaded our country. They came into our country illegally from prisons, from from mental institutions, gang members. They want to give them health care and take it away from our citizens. We're not going to do that. $1.5 trillion they want to destroy. They want to destroy our health care system. We're not going to let that happen.
Have you authorized CIA operations in Venezuela as part of
Well, I wouldn't say that, but some interesting things are happening around the world, I'll say that.
Mr. President, it has been reported that Maduro offered everything in his country, all the natural resources. He even recorded a message to you in English.
Listening in from the White House is President Donald Trump meets with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, talking about aid that the U.S. may or may not give to Ukraine as it continues this war with Russia, but the hopes for a peace settlement which can be achieved soon as the president prepares, hopefully, to meet with Vladimir Putin at a summit soon. We're going to take a break here on Fox 9 all day right now, but when we come back, we'll continue our series this week of talking to Minneapolis mayoral candidates. We've had one every day, and today it is Brenda Short. We'll have a conversation with her about her aspirations, her ideals, her goals, her platform when Fox 9 All Day Live continues. Welcome back to Fox 9 All Day, 1:15 on this Friday afternoon. I'm Rob Olson, in for Amy Hockert today. This week, Amy's been talking to Minneapolis mayoral candidates, so we invited this week 5 Minneapolis mayoral candidates to spend 10 minutes with us live. Now, of course, there are more than a dozen people running, but we chose the 5 candidates who were recognized at the DFL nominating convention this past summer. So Monday, Amy talked to incumbent Mayor Jacob Fry. On Tuesday, Dwayne Davis. Wednesday, State Senator Omar Fateh. Thursday, Jazz Hampton. Today, we're talking to Brenda Short. The candidates chose which day they wanted on a first response basis, so there's no ranking here. This is just the way it lined up with their schedules. Each candidate had to agree to the same ground rules. This is a conversation. It's not a debate. This is not an opportunity to talk about or criticize other candidates when they're not here to defend themselves. This is about their vision. We will give each candidate an opportunity to respond, though, to a specific criticism that has been leveled against them. And finally, each candidate was sent the same list of topics ahead of time, but we choose which questions from that list until we reach the 10-minute mark. So, today's candidate, small business owner, Brenda Short, who's got a varied background here, a very interesting biography that I read this morning. Brenda, thank you for joining us. So we're trying to keep these answers to about 30 seconds or so we can get through as many topics as we can. So we'll start your 10 minutes now. You have made it very clear that a big part of your, ambitions here, a big part of your motivations is that you were unhoused at one point in your life in Minneapolis. So that brings the question. I mean, obviously housing is a big part of it, but how would you first of all handle the encampments in Minneapolis that we've seen pop up and be cleared out? And there's been a lot of criticism about the way they're being handled, criticisms from other sides saying they should have been handled sooner. How would you deal with that?
First of all, we shouldn't even have encampments at all. We have multiple apartments that have been empty for years, and this should never happen. Minneapolis is big enough to handle all of the unhoused neighbors and help them with wraparound services. To focus on encampments alone, people are forgetting, because I was unhoused. When you do those sweeps, you lose your driver's license, your social security number, your birth certificate, your identity. They can't get any help. And sometimes they lose their cell phone. And because of that, they can't even get the help they deserve. Or when it's time for them to get a bed, they need to figure out how to get a cell phone to remember whose number they needed to reach out to.
Okay, so I mean, obviously, again, a big part of your mission here for running is of dealing with housing and affordable housing, but specifically, say you are elected, you're in that office, encampments are there, what would you do?
We have many abandoned houses right now that the city is paying for. Those property taxes, I would start focusing on separating the individuals who need a home and who wants a home, and start forcing them into these abandoned houses, because they are there. We are already paying those property taxes. The community pays them directly to cover the costs, and start making sure those homes are livable for them, and then really work on real wraparound services, such as Summit Academy and PPL. They have great programs. I went from unhoused and worked with PPL, and I end up being an investment broker. Okay. So that can be done.
We're going to continue on. Your picture is frozen up, but we're going to continue talking here. We're going to move on to police and peace officers, which again is something where you said that's very important to have police officers or peace officers, and their transparency and their relationship with the community. But let's start with this. If you were to be elected, would you keep Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara in that position?
I've said it before, no. Mr. O'Hare has a habit of talking bad about our city. And second of all, he has a history of...
It appears maybe her signal, we're having a little bit of an issue there. She froze up, and now it appears that it may be disconnected. We're going to attempt to try to get her back on here. Again, talking to Minneapolis mayoral candidate Brenda Short, the fifth in our series this week of talking to Minneapolis mayoral candidates. Again, 5 that were selected at the DFL nominating convention this summer, out of all those who are running, to get their opinions, their platforms, their views, not a debate, not the criticisms of the others, but focused on what they have is their vision and their platform, as we are now coming up on an election here next month. So Amber's working on trying to restore that with Brenda Short, so of course we'll extend her 10-minute window. But again, a big focus on her platform. Read a lot about her, to listen to some of her speeches, her talks, is that she was unhoused at one point in her life when she grew up in a small town in Iowa, came to Minnesota, wound up is a mother of young children and unhoused, and then has taken a number of different positions, including in the legal profession and in finance, as well as she worked her way through. No previous political experience here. She did run for city council a few years ago, but now running for the mayor of Minneapolis without a political background to look upon, any sort of electoral background or elected office background. But basically what she's been informed by in her life living in Minneapolis, and the things that she deems important to move forward, and the things that she deems are important to move away from or towards. Amber, any update on trying to get her back here? I think
Rob, I'm working on it. We're trying to have Brenda log fully back off and log back on. We're having some audio and video issues back here, but I did pause the timer for Brenda.
Okay.
About when her shot went down. She's got about 6.5 minutes left on the clock. So as soon as I get her back, I will let you know. In the meantime, you want to take a quick little commercial break?
Let's take a quick break here
right.
on while Amber gets the technical demons sorted out with our Zoom with mayoral candidate Brenda Strong. 1:22, we're going to take a short break and return after this on All Day. Welcome back to Fox 9 All Day. Amber, we are working on the technical issues here
Yes.
with Brenda Short.
Yes, and I just want to make sure that we're being as transparent as possible about what's going on here. As you mentioned before, every candidate that we've had on this week has gotten 10 minutes, right? Brenda will get her 10 minutes. She's got about 6.5 minutes left. As soon as I'm able to get her back on, we will finish out those 6.5 minutes. If I can't make that happen today, Rob, we will reschedule with Brenda and give her another chance.
She will get her time. And if it doesn't work out today, we'll get it on another day. But Zoom has been a fantastic tool in recent years, but that doesn't mean it always works flawlessly.
What did you say earlier? The technological demons.
Yeah.
I mean, they persist no matter what you do, right? So we're working on it.
Well, we have those issues a lot. I mean, we're using Zoom much more frequently. It's been a very efficient tool, but it all is dependent on your signal strength.
It really is.
So sometimes there's nothing you can do.
You want to run through a couple headlines while we're waiting?
Yeah, let's do that. First of all, again, working on to get Minneapolis Mayoral candidate Brenda Short back here to finish our interview with her. But in the meantime, let's talk about some of the other headlines from today. And that a big one, of course, is the government shutdown. The federal government shutdown dragging on another day. And there's going to be no movement on this today at all because the Senate is not in session. They're not meeting again until Monday. So this is now officially the third longest shutdown in U.S. history. If it stretches further into next week and without a deal, it would become the second longest on record. Of course, the longest from a couple of years ago, which was over 30 days. Meantime, National Public Radio is reporting that the White House has been planning to carry out some mass layoffs at the Department of the Interior beginning on Monday. And this comes despite a court order, a standing order right now from a federal judge that put an injunction, a block on firings during the shutdown pending another court hearing. In a declaration filed with the court, though, late yesterday, the attorney for the plaintiffs here, the government employees at the Interior Department, wrote that multiple credible sources said that the Interior Department was actively preparing to lay off thousands of employees beginning Monday. Speaking to reporters yesterday, the White House press secretary said the White House is very confident their actions are legal and called these layoffs an unfortunate consequence of this government shutdown. Again, stretching now, it will stretch into next week. All right, this afternoon and happening basically right about now, a sentencing day for former Minnesota Teacher of the Year Abdul Wright, who's in court at 1:30. So due to start here in a minute. Sometimes those don't always start right on time, but due to start shortly. Wright facing more than a decade in prison for sexually abusing a middle school student for nearly a year. A 14-year-old who previously told our Fox 9 investigators that Wright had groomed and sexually abused her while she was a student at Harvest Best Academy in Minneapolis. Now, Wright was named the Minnesota Teacher of the Year in 2016. According to the court documents, began sexually abusing the student the following year. There was a recording of a very incriminating phone call used as evidence in the trial that convinced the judge that Wright had lied when he took the stand and claimed his innocence. The school itself is also the subject of a civil lawsuit for not doing enough to protect the student. Fox 9 investigative reporter Nathan O'Neill in court for this one today, and we'll have updates on this later today. All right, it is a Friday afternoon, a beautiful Friday in October, and it is a Gopher game day. We're talking Gopher football on a Friday night. It's going to be fun. The Maroon and Gold taking on 25th ranked Nebraska. And so a lot of eyes on this, and it is on Fox 9 tonight. Amy Hockert on campus now, checking out some of the tailgating and the hoopla and the preparations for what'll be a fun night at Huntington Bank Stadium, Amy.
Yeah, Rob, they're getting set for a very fun night. The tailgating doesn't officially start until 2 o'clock here, but we're looking at it. They're lining up to get inside of the parking lot, one of the tailgate lots right over here. And along, Oak Street, we're also seeing the preparations underway for some of the games that take over the street just outside Huntington Bank Stadium. We're still, almost 6 hours away from this game, so these people really know how to party. They're getting ready with, in the maroon lot, I'm also seeing one of the ambulances that shows up early, and it's not, an ambulance to take somebody away if they've had too many brats, but they actually make the brats in the ambulance over here. They have a few of them that take over the maroon lot here before games. The band, I saw them. The band always wins. My daughter was in the band. I really love the band. They were here earlier getting warmed up, practicing for their halftime run, and they'll be back over here for the tailgaters in a couple of hours. But they are back in their practice arena right now, getting their uniforms on and getting their pregame meals. So, a lot of preparations underway at the moment, but the tailgate's still about half an hour from starting. We're seeing some of the fans out here. We did see a bunch of Nebraska guys. I see a couple of them here mixed with the Minnesota Gopher fans. So, it's a friendly little rivalry here, and, everybody can get along, right, Rob?
I think so. This is a couple of Midwestern state teams with some, especially the Nebraska fans are very, very passionate about their team. And as we interviewed a fan earlier today that said, we don't have pro sports in Nebraska. So, this is a big deal, like it is in a lot of states where you don't have professional sports. Those college teams really become very important in the state's identity. How long is that line to get into the tailgate? Can you tell how far back that stretches?
It's not too terribly long right now. I saw it going back to one of the science buildings over here, and it looks like it's thinned out quite a bit. They're not getting in there super quickly because they still do have to go through the gates there and, show tickets and everything. I can't see the end of the line, to be honest, but it seems like it's thinning out, and there were probably, just a guesstimate, 100. That may be the end of the line right there. But I'm guessing there were 100 or so vehicles waiting in line, and it does appear to be the very end of the line getting in here, and they'll be ready to start by 2 p.m. here. I got to get the fire, get the grill going and get those beers started early. You got a pregame for a few hours.
What an ideal day to tailgate. It's going to be nice for the game. It's going to be great tailgating weather out there. It is. You're in short sleeves.
That's right. Got short sleeves. There's not too much sun, so you're not going to get, sunburned before the game, and beautiful weather here. It's just been a gorgeous day here. It's, atypical for us to have it like this throughout October, but it's just been beautiful out here, and that's why I think we're starting to see. We were over on Frat Row earlier. We saw, a lot of the guys out there are shirtless, so they're ready to go, or shirtless but wearing Gopheralls. You know how that goes. But they're ready. They're getting ready over there. They officially don't start their tailgate activities until 4 o'clock. So we came over here because they start a little bit earlier.
Yeah. It's that time of day where it's still slow, but you can tell that everyone's sort of ramping up. I know in some of those tailgate setups, when we go out there, just like any tailgate anywhere, it's not unique to the Gophers, but some of the dedicated Gopher fans really put up quite a spread.
Yeah, that's for sure. I know, my daughter worked the tailgate lot over here with a little portion of the band for the last 4 years, and one of the buses that would come in here, they were good for, pork of any kind. They were actually some of the meat producers from around the state of Minnesota. So they were usually here with a whole load of pork, or sometimes it was beef, but they'd always make sure that the band got fed. There's another one that lines the maroon lot here that made sure they got cookies. But, some of these setups are, you know, incredible. And again, I think about that pork all the time because they just did like such a good job. It's not just your standard grill setup. It's like they've got a massive grill and they've got, you know, little crock pots working, and they've got, you know, a special area inside. There's like a full kitchen in the back of a fancy restaurant, and so it's
yeah.
you know, it's a pretty nice setup that a lot of these folks have.
I love watching them unload their trailers or their trucks, and they're setting up the tents, and then they got a grill, and then they have a griddle, and then they have all the stuff they've pre-prepared and ready to go, and they just, you know, it's like, oh, do you want to try one of these and one of these, and we got this, and then they set the TV up, and it's remarkable. What's your plan? Yeah. What's your plan here for the rest of the afternoon?
I got to see what starts early because I've never seen it at the very beginning before. But I'm definitely going to make my way through the maroon lot and see if my daughter's goodwill can get me fed here before she gets here. She is coming, even though she's graduated. She is going to work social media for the band tonight. So I know there's a lot of good food over here. So I mean, this ambulance is already setting up the grill, so we'll see what they're doing. I'm still on the clock, though, so I can't partake in the adult beverages just yet. But, you know, maybe after we finish that 5:30 hit, we'll get on that.
Mm-hmm. I think so. Yeah, I would encourage that. And then, of course, there's always some fun games. There's always, you can get in a good cornhole game out there. Be a lot of those. Yeah.
Some beer pong out on Frat Row. They've got beer die on Frat Row.
Yeah.
And yeah, absolutely play some bags.
Yeah, and we'll be covering.
I think Melissa Mart's here.
Oh, yeah,
she
don't
could
want
show me how it's done.
Well, I think you already tried to learn from her, and I think she schooled you completely.
Yeah, I believe if I remember right, it was a shutout, and I can't remember, but that seems right. Yeah,
she's good. All right, well, I know we've got more homecoming pregame plans for Fox 9 Local this afternoon, so we'll probably be seeing you in part of that. I'm guessing. I don't know.
Yeah, if you can't make it out for the pregame festivities or the game itself, obviously, you know, the fact that it's on Fox 9 tonight is a big deal for folks. And so we're going to be checking out some of the people watching it on TV as well.
All right. Thanks, Corin. Have fun out there. All right. As Corin mentioned, if you can't get down to Huntington Bank Stadium, the game on Fox 9 tonight, Minnesota versus Nebraska with kickoff just after 7 p.m.
Should be a good one.
Should be a really good one. I won't be able to watch it.
Me either. I'm actually packing for a trip, so you know, I'm busy.
I'm going to McCartney.
Oh, all right.
Yep.
All right.
Bought tickets last night.
Okay, did you get them for cheap?
Cheapish.
Cheapish.
I mean, you know, there were reports are going as low as 25. I didn't see any of those. I'm sure those are on the, you know, way up top and maybe on the sides of the stage.
A block view.
Yeah, I saw some of those that were cheaper. They didn't see 25.
Yeah.
We got like second deck in the corner for 70, I think it was.
Not bad.
No,
okay.
Not bad. And this is, you know, Sir Paul McCartney. This is a knight.
The Sir Paul McCartney.
A Beatle. He's 83, and, you know, chances are we're not going to see him come around again. I've never seen him live. I've heard the show is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And, of course, you know most of the music, and this is just one of those things that, I mean, this is, you know, regardless of what you think of his career since then, this guy was in the Beatles, and so that's a huge part of history.
Huge, huge. Do you know what else is happening tonight? Not music related, but sports related.
Well, the Wild play tonight. What else?
We are looking at a men's hockey team, University of Minnesota versus University of North Dakota.
Oh.
And I didn't realize how big of a rivalry this was.
Yeah.
Did you? Okay, so I'm, you know, I'm not from here. I'm a Wisconsin girl. Don't come for me. But I saw this video tweeted out by a reporter out there, Rob. People have been lined up since last night, camped out outside. Chris, we can take producer PC, and I've got a credit on here in this as well. So from Taylor Budge with Midco Sports, this was outside the stadium in Grand Forks at 11 o'clock this morning. And these people told her they've been there since last night.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, talk about commitment, right? I don't think I love any sport that much, enough to sleep on concrete.
Well, you know, again, it's some rabid fans for college hockey, and particularly, you know, I mean, as we were talking about with the Nebraska football fans, you know, this is hockey up in Grand Forks. There's, you know, it becomes a significant part of the fandom of the sports community because, you know, you don't have any other programs up there, no pro sports. I mean, and that is a beautiful stadium. That is a great stadium that they have in Grand Forks.
Games, what time is this game? 7 o'clock tonight?
7 o'clock, yeah.
7, yeah, doors don't open until 6. So some of these people might be there for like 24 hours before they can even get in.
Yeah, I mean,
I respect it. Yeah. If you love something, you love it hard, all in, right?
And plus, that's part of the fun.
It is.
If you know you're doing that, it's kind of like, you know, people camping out for the Black Friday sales. And you think, why are they doing that? And they're like, well, because this is part of the fun.
Right, right. And like, I imagine the tailgating is just like another level, right? I mean, if you're there for that long, it's just, it does look fun. I wish there were grass and not concrete. I prefer to camp.
You do what you can. So it is a 2-game series. The Gopher hockey, men's hockey team against the 8th-ranked North Dakota team. Yep. So they play North Dakota tonight and tomorrow night. And yeah, that'll be a good game to watch. I mean, there's so much going on.
Yes.
But I'll be enjoying Sir Paul McCartney. Yeah.
Okay. Rob, I'm going to have us take a quick break. I believe I might have Brenda back on, but I want to check things out first and make sure everything's good. So we've got enough time to finish out her 10 minutes. She's got 6.5 left on the clock. Okay. So while I check in with Brenda, our little Serenity Now moment, we're going to go back to Huntington Bank Stadium, some drone video from Brad Swagger this morning to get us geared up for the game tonight.
All right, Fox 9 all day. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Fox 9 All Day Live on this Friday afternoon. I'm Rob Olson in for Amy Hockert today. We've continued to work on our connection with Minneapolis Mayoral candidate Brenda Strong, who was the final of our series this week of speaking to 5 mayoral candidates in Minneapolis. We had technical issues, still working on that, and it looks likely that we will reschedule her for next week to finish that interview. What we want to talk about now is that there is a science fiction convention in town this weekend, and it's pretty unique. It's got a twist to it. It's called Confluence, celebrating art, fantasy, fandoms, and of course, science fiction. All of it centered on content by and for people of color. So it's happening tomorrow and Sunday in Northeast Minneapolis. And joining us now via Zoom, David Glasgow and Ashley Kudo, pardon me if I... Kudu, okay. The organizers of Confluence, thanks for joining us. First of all, just what is happening this weekend? Explain what Confluence is and how it's different from other sci-fi conventions.
Awesome. All right. So Confluence, Futures and Colors, what it's called for this year's con. It is a sci-fi convention in the essence like any other, except that it is definitely BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, people of color. It is all designed by, centered on the speculative stories and the art and the fandoms of the community. It is going to have vendors. We got wonderful guests like Tim Russ and Abria Iyengar that's going to be here this weekend. We're very excited for that. We're going to have panels. We're going to have gaming. We're going to have a cosplay competition, even a fandom walk this weekend. Many beautiful, wonderful things that's going to happen.
Where did this idea come from? I believe is this the second year for Confluence?
Yes, this is our second year. We first started in 2023. This was the brainchild of local artist Leslie Barlow. She's our producer for the con, and she gathered a bunch of us here to, work on this, a lot of local BIPOC nerds, and we were like, oh, finally, yes, we would love to. So here we are, back at it for round 2.
That's great. You mentioned Tim Russ is a celebrity guest. If people don't know who that is, I do. He played Tuvok on Star Trek Voyager, a Vulcan science officer and a Vulcan of color. And, things like that, obviously, and Star Trek has always prided itself on trying to have a multi-ethnic and diverse crew, even from its first run back in the 60s. That was really part and parcel of that. Nichelle Nichols, obviously, was a major influence. I just read about that she had wanted to quit after the first season, and I believe it was talking to Martin Luther King Jr. said, no, you are an icon, and you are very important, and so she stuck with it. So really, what is, what is it here that you're embracing in sci-fi that has become so important as we have these sort of discussions?
I mean, it's not only honestly just sci-fi. That's just one container. We're celebrating everything that is brought forward with from people of color. Like I said, it's going to be speculative. Like, it's going to be comic books that we're going to have here. We're talking about all types of multimedia, whether it's movies, TV shows, music, anime. We're celebrating all those things because, quite honest, people of color voices tend to be quieted or completely shut. And we want to make sure that that's not happening here. We wanted to make sure that we created a space where that is sacred, where that is celebrated, all are welcome. But we definitely wanted to make that a point.
Yeah. And I think also with naming that this is a BIPOC-centered space, it's really allows us who maybe have felt excluded or feel like, this is not really my thing. I don't really see people like me doing this. This is where your first con can happen, For me, coming into Confluence and, being on the project management side, that was my first time even doing cosplay or being a part of a con. So it's really this welcoming space for people who have been interested in this nerdy side, but haven't really felt had like permission to like do so.
Yeah. So what can people expect if they come in this weekend? What sort of events? What can they do? What can they see? What can they take part in?
Absolutely expect to meet a lot of beautiful, creative, eccentric people with giant hearts, and I mean that. You don't have to be a fan of sci-fi, but if you're curious, we want you to come. We want you to come learn something. Like I said, we're going to have many vendors. I'm looking at some now who are going to have visual art. I'm looking at some jewelry here that's in front of me. We're definitely going to have like comic book creators. I think we got some gaming.
Oh yeah, show us around. That's great.
Yeah, we're in the marketplace right now, and we got our vendors getting set up. That's just one piece of it. Upstairs, we have our art exhibition, and then on Saturday night, it's going to be turned into like a dance party. So what else?
Yeah, we have a youth as well, a youth station dedicated 100% to the youth. That's going to have all type of events. I think they're going to have some crafting. We had a whole team that built something around that, and it looks like it's very exciting.
Okay.
Like I said, cosplay.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, a lot of, and that's always part of the sci-fi, fantasy, et cetera, conventions is all the people that come in costume. Maybe you expect to see quite a few, don't you?
Oh yeah.
Well, you're going to see me for sure.
What are you dressed as?
Do you know who Black Adam is from the DC world?
I do.
Yeah.
I can totally see that. Yep, that works. All right. Well, I mean, but it's you see cartoon characters or comic book characters, I should say. You see science fiction, film, comic book. Oh, yeah. You see, all sorts of stuff. It's fun. Well, as we talk about all this, let everybody know where you are and what you need to do to get in the door.
Go for it.
Yeah, so we are in the Northrop King building that is in northeast Minneapolis. Also, if you just Google Confluence MN, you can go to our website, Confluence MN, and see all the aspects of our con, purchase tickets, or you can also purchase tickets at the door.
How much are they?
So they are $35 per day, or you can do $55 for the entire weekend. Or if you want to just do the dance party, we have a specific dance party ticket for $15.
Okay. Well, good luck with everything. It's a great, fun event, and I'm sure Tim Russ will be kind of a fun draw, too, to hear about his perspective on being in the Star Trek universe. Thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
You bet. Bye. All right, 1:54 here now on the Friday, so we're getting close to the end
Just a
here.
couple minutes, Rob.
Wow, that is the fastest 2 hours of my day.
Yep. I do want to say, just so everyone knows what's going on back here with Brenda Short, we are going to reschedule her for next week, Rob. So we've been in touch, and we're going to reschedule. Unfortunately, just, technological demons, like you say, can't get them figured out today. They're not cooperating.
And sometimes those become just a barrier that you can't get past.
Yep.
I mean, and so clearly that happened. Interesting candidate, though. She has no political or electoral background. A very interesting history, though, of coming here, moving here, being unhoused for a time with young children, and she found jobs at Target and a Kmart, I believe. And when her car broke down, there was a rideshare. No, they lost public transportation because of a strike, and then she got into a rideshare program to continue working, and she's worked in healthcare, she's worked in finance, and has got a very passionate vision for dealing with housing issues and with police reform. She was very opposed to the, when I looked at her, her history, all the defund the police conversations. She did not like that, but she does believe that there needs to be continued changes, especially with the transparency and with the relationship of community and police officers, but that they are essential.
I also want to mention as we have Brenda on next week, we will also be continuing on with our Candidate a Day series, but we're going to also move over to St. Paul. So the St. Paul mayoral candidates will be joining us next week as well, Rob.
Oh,
so
wow.
another jam-packed week leading up to Election Day, right?
Yeah, well, it just gets busier and busier. And it's a it's an off year in terms of the amount of campaigns that are out there.
But
just wait till
local elections.
Just for local elections, there's a lot. There is a lot. And then, of course, a year from now, the midterm elections nationally, which is where it's going to get pretty busy here.
All right, that's about all the time we have. I want to remind people, Gophers on Fox 9 tonight, Vikings on Fox 9 on Sunday. Expecting to hear from Coach O'Connell in a couple minutes here, actually, so maybe we'll learn something about their QB situation ahead of the game against the Eagles.
Because he's not been wanting to say who's going to be quarterback here.
It's been a little hush-hush, so we'll learn something soon, hopefully, and then tune into Fox 9 later on today to see what he had to say. In the meantime, our Serenity Now.
Well, wait, first we want to mention Fox 9, Fox Local beginning at 3 p.m.
Yes.
Gopher pregame, 3 p.m. on.
Wall to wall.
Yep. All right.
This is, do I say it like, is it Pactola? Do you know, Rob?
I don't know this one,
well,
but it's beautiful.
In South Dakota, courtesy of Gerg. We got 15 seconds, Rob. Thanks for joining us today.
Oh, appreciate it, Amber. It's always fun to be here. Anytime you just ask, I'll be here.
I will. We'll kick Amy out of there once in a while. She needs a break.
Well, have a good Friday. Have a good weekend, everybody. Thanks for watching Fox 9 All Day Live.
Now.
Again, right here on Fox 9. I'll be tailgating and at the game. Can't wait. Maroon and gold, Sky-U-Ma, row the boat. That'll do it for us. Hope you have a great week.